G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to go through 3 top exercises to free up a stiff low back. And it's really important because there's a lot of people who physically are walking around feeling like their back's stiff. It may be painful as well, but this is also for anyone who just wants their back to move better and function better, because you don't necessarily have to have overt, obvious stiffness day to day to have back dysfunction. So it's really well worth your time to go through the things that we're going to go through in a second, just to see where you start and then see where you come out of this video, and hopefully moving better and feeling better long term, short and long term. So the first exercise we're going to get to is we're going to use the trusty ball exercise. Again, we love this. It's a really simple way to make change quickly, a significant change quickly. And you can use a lacrosse ball if you have one. You can use a tennis ball if there's a little bit of tenderness there around the area. Use a ball that has a density that you feel comfortable pressing into your body. Now, it's a similar idea to using a foam roller for your back. And the idea that we want to promote against with this exercise is we're not here to roll around. So even though it's a ball, even though it's a foam roller, the best and fastest way to mobilize a stiff back is to stay on that tissue, not to sort of roll the ball up and down or roll the roller up and down. And we'll talk about why that is in a second, but essentially you can make more change just by letting the ball or the roller press in. Because what we want to do is we want to locate stiffness and tightness in your back. Generally that relates to the joints of your spine. There's going to be some soft tissue over the top that are tight, but remember, muscular tightness is often reacting to something. So if you have a tight muscle in your back, it's very likely that there's a stiff joint or an overloaded joint or an irritated joint underneath all of that you can get at with the ball, sort of short-circuiting the first step to that muscular tightness, but also freeing up your back in the process. So what we want to do before we do this, we want to make sure that you have a test and a retest so that you can see exactly what these exercises do for you, so you don't have to guess, you don't have to take my word for it. You can see in real time what it actually does. So the best way to do this is just to stand up, but we'll do this kneeling so you can see. So basically we want you to arch backwards as far as you feel comfortable, taking note of how this feels. When you arch backwards from your back, does it feel smooth? Does it feel stiff? Does one side feel like it's sort of a bit rustier than the other? And then obviously we'll get you to sort of bend from side to side as well. Again, nothing fancy, not very groundbreaking, but we're trying to use this as an initial sense of how your back feels, how it moves, because that's going to sort of direct you as to where you go with this first exercise. But it's going to let you know how you go. So what we're going to do here, for me, when I was arching backwards, it feels a little bit stiff, sort of mid to low back. So what we're going to do with the ball, we're going to start with the ball right in the middle of the spine where the bumps are. We're just going to let the ball roll off a little bit to the side. So we're on the muscle, but also on the spinal column. And all we're going to do is we're just going to lie down on top of that. So the ball's going in the back. We're just lying down on top of that. Again, we're not rolling up and down, but we can move the ball around so you can go up or down and off to the side a little bit more, looking for the areas that feel the most stiff or tight for you. So remember, we definitely want to respect any pain or tenderness, but we're not guided by that pain and tenderness, because what we often find is you can have an area that's painful and tender to let a ball press into, but if it doesn't feel stiff and tight, you may not necessarily need to be spending your time there. But what we often find is if there is an area that's tender and stiff, if it's not that area that's also tight and restricted as well, it may be the area above that, the area below that, or the area on the opposite side. So again, if you're just looking to mobilize your stiff back, we're looking for stiffness and tightness, but mechanically it's going to help everything move better, particularly those in pain. So again, all we're doing here, and again, it's the same idea with the roller, we're just finding a spot that feels a little bit stiff and tight, and then we're just going to let the ball press in here for 30 seconds, a minute, as long as you feel you need to. There's no time limit on this. It's very safe. As long as you feel like you're respecting how your body feels and how your tissue feels, you can do this for as long as you feel you need to see change. And as soon as you feel like it's given a little bit, then we want you to move the ball up a little bit further or out to the side a little bit more or down a little bit more. Go looking for the next area so you know you're not missing anything. And then again, once you've spent a few minutes doing that, what we basically want to do again is we want to do the same movements again. So if I arch backwards again, so for me, automatically, I know exactly where my stiff and tight areas are. If I bend from side to side, it automatically feels like I can go further before any of that tightness and stiffness comes in. So again, we're not just caring about how far you go, because you can cheat if you really want to, but we also care about how it feels. Does it feel less stiff? Does it feel smoother? Do you feel like you've addressed some of that muscular tightness at the same time? So that's the first exercise. The second exercise, again, is a little bit left of center, but one of the best ways to mobilize a stiff back is to go at it from the front. And what a lot of the time we forget, and we get so wrapped in that we divide our body into the front and the back, that we forget that it's all connected. So when someone has back pain or has a stiff back and they're looking for exercises to free up that back, we spend 99, if not 100% of our time focused on mobilizing the back. But again, if we take some time to mobilize some of the tissue at the front, you'll find that there's a lot of soft tissue tightness, some restrictions there that when you take those handbrakes off, all of a sudden the whole trunk moves better, it takes pressure off the back, and the back moves better as well. So all you want to do is you want to grab a softish ball. So this is a kid's basketball. It's not pumped up all the way. You can use a medium-sized ball. You can get a ball from any sporting goods store. You just want something that feels soft enough and small enough that you can get it into that abdominal region. And we want to basically lie down on top of it and hunt around for some of those tightnesses at the front, free them up, and then again, recheck those same movements again to see how it feels. So this exercise is called the gut smash. It's a fantastic exercise. It's brilliant to help you fall asleep as well. So again, we're just placing it in your abdominal area, just below the rib cage. And what we want to do is we want to sort of slowly move it around until we find something that feels a little bit tight. So there's something here for me. And what we want to do here is we want to take a deep breath in and then squeeze. So squeeze those abs, squeeze the tissue underneath, hold that for 5 seconds, and then relax. And you should feel like it's a little bit looser, a little bit less tender straight away. So if it's particularly tight, then spend a little bit of time here. So keep repeating the same process. Deep breath in, squeeze, hold for a few seconds, relax. And once you've had enough there, move it around, go looking for the next spots that feel tight and restricted. So don't miss the very top, just underneath that rib cage. Don't miss all the way down the bottom towards your pelvic bone. Just go hunting around. Anything that feels tight and tender here is fair game. It's very safe. You can't pop a kidney. You can't damage anything. You might find it's quite tender because not many people have spent time massaging through the front. I'd challenge anyone, let me know in the comments below if you've ever had your abs massaged before. Not many people have. So we've got years and years of pent up tightness and restriction there that you can use a softer ball to get into. As I said, it's brilliant for helping you sleep. The vagus nerve, that parasympathetic nervous system, the system that brings you down. It's also fantastic to do before you go to sleep to help you sleep. But for the purposes of this, freeing up the back from the front, and again, rechecking it again. And what you should find, so for me, without trying to sort of lean back too far, again, it feels like there's a little bit more room to move there. And then same thing again, when we check out the same movements to the side, again, it just feels like there's less restriction there. So for me, it's still a little bit tight on this side through here, but again, it gives you something to work on. So again, using a ball through the joints in the soft tissue at the back or a roller, then finding a medium-sized ball to free up the tissue at the front. Again, it's often missed, but it's a really powerful tool. So if you have some stiffness and you want to get rid of it, give the gut smash a go. The third exercise to try and free up your back, to free up a stiff back, we want to go after some hip mobility. And again, we've done this a lot on the channel before, but the couch stretch is a fantastic way to unglue some of your spine from underneath. Because what we don't realize, is that some of those hip flexors that flex the hip, bend that hip, attach and anchor into the front of that lower back. So again, if you sit at a desk all day, you sit in the car all day, sit on the couch, or a combination of all of those throughout the day, it's very easy to become tight and shortened through the front of that hip. And if it's pulling on the front of the spine, again, it's another layer or another handbrake of dysfunction, a handbrake of immobility attached to your spine. So again, we want to free up the back from the back, free up your trunk from the front. But we also want to unglue some of those tight hip flexors that anchor into the front of the spine. And the easiest way to do that, as I said, is with the couch stretch. And again, I'd recommend doing this on a chair or a couch, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to do it on the ground here. So you place your back knee into the corner of your chair with your shin vertical or up against the wall as pictured. And you bring your other leg up as far as you feel comfortable. Now, there's two parts to this stretch. The first is that you want to keep your back relatively straight, so you don't have to come all the way up just yet. But leaning forwards, you might find this is already enough to open up some of that tightness at the front. But we really want to squeeze the glute at the back and press that hip to the ground. So we're pushing your hip into extension, opening up some of the tight soft tissue at the front of the hip here. And then once you've sort of hunted around here, we want to squeeze that tightness, similar to when we did the gut smash from before. Tense it up for a few seconds, and then when you relax, you might find you can go a little bit deeper than before. Once you've spent some time doing that, maybe 2 minutes aside, then we want to get you to take it to the next step where we're keeping your back straight from your hip. We want you to extend upwards as far as you feel comfortable. And what you'll find is it'll certainly include a lot of the thigh. So if you've got some thigh tightness, this is fantastic. But you can move your hips around and you'll be able to notice there's a whole bunch of muscular tightness at the front here. If you're up nice and tall, you can lift your arm up and lean across to the other side. And you might find there's a whole bunch of tightness higher up above that hip bone, which can be some abdominal tightness, but also the hip flexor as it goes deep and anchors into the front of your spine. So again, deep breath in, squeeze, hold for a few seconds, and then relax. You might find you can go further again. Deep breath in, squeeze, tense everything up, relax, and go further again. And then as we did before, we want to come back to your spinal movements. And for me, it feels like there's very little in the way of restriction there. I can sort of bias it a little bit more if I lean off to the side, but coming back to the front, doing the same thing again. Hopefully you'll see that it just feels like things are, hopefully visually it looks like it's moving further for me. But those 3 exercises are really powerful. So obviously there's a whole range of things that you can do to free up your spine. But again, taking a ball or a roller to the joints and the soft tissue in your back, keeping it there, not rolling it around, is a great way to hit the specific areas that feel stiff to you when you do your active movements. If you get a ball out and do the gut smash from the front, again, we're taking off this whole bunch of handbrakes from the front that again can affect how the back moves and feels. And then the third exercise is the couch stretch for those hip flexors that attach into the front of the spine. Again, we often forget that there's other things going on besides the back. And that's another aspect that you can work on to try and free up that spine quickly and effectively and keep it loose and hopefully pain-free long term. So if those were useful, let us know in the comments below. Pick one that you maybe haven't done before, give it a go, let us know how it went. If you have any other exercises that you swear by that free up a stiff lower back, please let me know and we can sort of review them and comment on them on the channel. If you enjoyed the video or if you picked up some information that maybe you hadn't thought of before, please leave a like below and consider subscribing to the channel just so that these videos can get out to more people. And we'd really appreciate the support going forward. So as always, hopefully that was useful for you guys, and then we'll see you in the next one.